Hello, everybody. My name is Tijmen Schep, and I'm an artist and a privacy designer. And I'm going to talk to you about AI and face recognition technology, something I do a lot of work with at the moment. Specifically, you might have realized that this is becoming a hot topic, right? So we have these researchers, for example, from 2017, who try to use artificial intelligence to figure out just from a photo of your face whether or not you are gay. And we're seeing all these types of claims about AI that we should look more closely at. Also because, of course, this type of analysis can do a lot of damage, right? We see that being gay still isn't totally accepted all around the world. And even here in Europe, we see that, for example, right now, Hungary has just passed a law banning LGBTQ content towards children. So I think we should look at this closely and look at it critically. And to do that, I created an interactive documentary called How Normal Am I? It's an interactive documentary that lets you experience face recognition and detection technology yourself. And it does so in a completely privacy-friendly manner. So right now, you will start to see a button pop up in your screen that will take you to the website, hownormalami.eu. We'll experience that together for 5 minutes. Come back to this screen after your BMI has been predicted, and then we'll talk about how I made that algorithm. So I hope you enjoy that. You can finish it later if you want, but I think now we've gotten the bulk of the documentary out of the way. It has actually been viewed now over 500,000 times since I launched it in October last year, so I'm very excited and I hope you enjoyed it as well. You just experienced a couple of judgments by algorithms, and most of these algorithms I found online, and I basically put them together online into this experience, and let you show that a lot of cases these algorithms are just found. Not everybody builds them. But I did build one algorithm myself, and it was the BMI prediction algorithm. I had to. I couldn't find one that was good enough. What I want to talk to you about is how that stuff works, what BMI is, and we have to start with that. So what is BMI? Well, you probably kind of have an idea. It's about this ratio between your weight and your height, right? So this score that we've all probably gotten at some point in our lives. But what you might not know is that it's actually rather complicated. I'll give you a quick example. A high BMI doesn't always mean that you're unhealthy. For example, people who are bodybuilders, they have a very high BMI because muscle mass is very heavy. So they're very healthy, have a high BMI. So it's not that simple. And you see that same thing with other aspects like men and women have different BMI, etc. So with that in mind, I want to take you on my BMI safari that I went to on GitHub, which is a website where a lot of people share open source code. And I want to share you what I found when I looked at how most of the software that I found works. And what you'll see is that a lot of it is really strange and doesn't really work properly. So when you look under the hood of this technology, you're going to find some strange things. So like I said, I went to GitHub and I found a lot of projects. I downloaded all of them and got a lot of data on my hard drive, and some very strange data as well. One of the things you'll find is that a lot of these projects are Chinese. And here you see an example of what a Chinese algorithm classifies people in based on their face. So it basically only says, we talked about complexity. Well, this algorithm only says you're either thin, normal, or fat. That's it. Totally basic. This one is slightly more complicated. It classifies you as fat, a little fat, normal, thin, and very fat. But it's, again, you're just taking a complex subject and making it a very simple classification. Now, you might wonder, how do you measure this anyway? How do you go from a face to a BMI prediction? How does that work? Well, basically, most of these algorithms that I found use 7 face ratios. So that means they look at aspects within your face and try to use that as an input for this algorithm to predict. So here you see a couple of these. What they all work with is that they have basically, they start with turning your face to 64 points. This is a very common algorithm that does this. So this is step number 1. Your face becomes 64 points. And then they try to create these ratios based on these points by doing some mathematics. And I'll give you some practical examples. So, for example, this one is the ratio between the width of your face and the area of the bottom half of your face. So they take the ratio between those two and use that as one of the inputs. This is another one. This looks at the area above your eyes, and then the ratio between the ones on the outside, and then the one in the middle. That's another ratio that's supposed to indicate something about your BMI. Here's another one. kind of predictable, I guess, but this is about the height of your face in relationship to the bottom half of your face. So there are 7 like these. I've shown you 3. And like I said, they're all based on this very basic model that has only 64 points. But what you'll notice is that there is, in this model, no point at the top of your face. It doesn't deliver that. But as you've also seen is that most of these ratios do require a point at the top of your face. Right? So what they do is they basically try to figure out where that point is. So they take 2 lines through the bottom corner of your eyes and the middle of your eyebrows. Where they intersect, they assume that that's going to be the top of your head. And of course, what you already understand now is that if you just raise or lower your eyebrows, that's going to have a significant effect on where that top point is going to be. So that's why raising your eyebrows has such an incredible effect on your BMI score and BMI prediction in this algorithm. So you might also wonder, why these 7 ratios? Where did those come from? Well, there's a researcher called David Coetzee, a psychologist, and he started researching whether or not it was even possible to predict BMI based on your face. And interestingly, you remember this one, the width of your face to the bottom area ratio? In his own research, he says this. He says, basically that it doesn't work. In his own research, he says the perimeter area ratio did not correlate significantly with BMI in any of his research. But when you look at these algorithms that I found, they all use it anyway. You might also wonder, where do you get the data to train this algorithm? Well, a lot of these algorithms are built based on photos from celebrities. You'll also find a lot of data based on people who have been arrest records from the United States. An interesting one that I found that I really want to share with you is Reddit is popular online community. What I found was that Google researchers who work at Google Research India Health, they were taking pictures from a Reddit community called Progress Pics. This is where people share their weight loss progress, and then they take the before and after picture, and they use that also to train these algorithms. So that's, I thought, was kind of dubious, but interesting to know. So then I started to make my own BMI prediction algorithm, and I had to make all these choices based on what I learned. I had to make design choices. And one of the first decisions I had to make was what data to use. So I had on my hard drive all these photos from celebrities, Chinese celebrities, as well as a lot of inmates from America, a lot of these arrest records. And what I found was if I mixed them in certain ratios to train my algorithm, that had a huge effect on the outcome of how it worked. It had a big influence. So if I trained it more with Chinese people, it would be way better at recognizing, predicting accurately BMI for Chinese people, but way worse for Americans and vice versa. So you see that it's very cultured. The culture that you train it on really matters for this. In the end, I chose to just do it 50-50. Yeah, why not? I had no choice. Another question that I had to deal with was, do I massage the data? So as you can see here, a lot of these people had the data from, and sometimes these ratios, they would be outliers. They would have strange faces, you could say. And what most of these researchers do is they remove those outliers from the data set. And that will make it way easier to build an accurate algorithm for the rest of the people. But it's also a bit unfair, because you're excluding certain people from the data set, and that has a real effect, which you can see here. So the top one, you can see that how wrong the prediction was from what it was supposed to be. So you see that for most of the people originally, when I did not remove those outliers, people would have either between 0 and 2 BMI points off from the accurate value, or 0 and 4 points off from the accurate value. But the maximum they could be off was 14 points, 14 BMI points from what it was supposed to be. But when I pruned the data, you could see that for the majority of people, the algorithm became better. But for the small group of people, it became really worse. Right, so those people who it had never seen before, they got really weird predictions. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's a trade-off that I made. I made a trade-off to make this algorithm better for the majority of people, and by saying screw you to the majority of those small groups of people that were strange faces. So in general, that's what you see in a lot of these algorithms, is that it will work well for a small group of people, a little bit well for another group of people, and so forth, until you got some people where you could say the prediction is just totally way off. So all these algorithms, they're never perfect. They're always accurate to a degree, and you have to figure out, is it good enough? So what I'm trying to tell you here is that technology really is not neutral, right? This technology is designed. It was made by people making choices about what data to use, about whether or not they accept the science, and whether that was bogus, as we saw. So also my algorithm used very bad science, etc. So I'm making trade-offs. And all this is usually hidden from you when you just get the end result. But when I show you and we look under the hood, you see that it's problematic, that there are choices that I made, and that those are choices that you can question. Right? There's a choice that you can ask, like, why did you make that choice? Why did you make that other choice? Why more Chinese people? Why more Americans, etc. And of course, when there are choices, then you can have a debate. You can have a discussion, and you can ask questions, and then you see that design is always political, that technology is always political, in the sense that there's always a discussion to be had, and that we should have together about this stuff. So I think that's what I was trying to show with this documentary, is that this technology is not perfect, and that there are a lot of issues with it, and that we should be careful when we apply it. In some cases, AI is great. For a fun thing like this, it doesn't really harm anybody. But if you start using this for example, health insurance, then there is an issue that we have to discuss. Of course, that's one of the issues for me with AI, is that it doesn't work that well, and that's often strangely not an issue, because there's another value of AI, which is that AI allows you to remove some accountability. We all know the computer says no thing, right? Where you say, well, I trust the outcome because it was a neutral algorithm. What I try to show is that that's really a bad idea, because technology is never neutral. It's designed, it's made by people who make choices, and we can question those choices, and we should help people accountable for those choices. We should discuss AI like that. So AI, great, but there are some limitations, and there's a political nature that we should discuss. And that's what I want to talk to you about, and that's what I hope How Normal Am I is able to convey to you, and that I hope you enjoyed that aspect of it. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Good stuff, Tijmen. I see a lot of people clapping hands, thumbs up.
Thanks.
Someone says, it made me feel skinny. Oh, that's nice. And if you have questions for Tijmen, do you reply live, the chat function. That way I can read them out to Tijmen, and then you might get an answer to that very question. In the meantime, Tijmen, you end with sort of warnings or messaging, right? Technology is not neutral, right? It's political. It has been designed. Was that also the reason why you started this project? Because it started as Hoe Normaal Ben Ik, een programma tijdens de 5 mei.
Yeah, it started out as a Dutch project and then became a European project. Yes, very much so. This is very much about helping people question this technology and being aware that we have all these, like we saw with the first speaker, we have a lot of desires that we project onto technology. And when it comes to AI, we project a lot of desires as well. We project this need for honesty and neutrality, and we believe that this technology will bring it. But what people critics a lot of critics say is that we are not really making neutral technology, but we are hiding the bias underneath the technology.
Right.
And I think that's something that we have to be aware of, and I think that by simply looking underneath the technology, looking how it's built, you very quickly see the bias pop up. And I think just looking under the hood of the technology allows you to very quickly find that the stories we tell about AI aren't as realistic as we'd like to believe, because we really love to believe them, but we got to stay realistic.
Fair point. There's a question by Amerian that was highlighted, but is now magically disappeared, so I will ask a question by myself. When you started the project, it was Dutch, it was Hoe Normaal Ben Ik, but then somehow it got picked up and you scaled, it became an international phenomenon. Yep. What changed for you in the approach of the project?
Well, when I did the first Dutch project, it was nice to see we got about 10,000 views, and but I was excited about it. I noticed that people who did see it really loved it and really thought it was great, and really, a lot of educators came to me and said, well, this is really great for education, for example. So I was very happy about that.
Like awareness.
Exactly. And that really made me push to also create a European version. So with permission from the original partners, I worked together with Sherpa, which is a European research organization that I'm a part of, a consortium that looks at AI issues. And we created the English version, and I also wanted to add more. There's also an interesting question of what didn't I add. For example, I could have added an analysis of your ethnicity, skin color, and things like that, but I didn't put that in because that might have gone too far. So there's a lot more I could have done that I didn't do.
Right, and you chose BMI.
Yeah, I thought BMI was interesting because it's very sensitive data that you get out of it. It's about health. in a way, and so that matters. And you see also that I found this interesting project of insurers in India who were using BMI, which this documentary does as well. It tries to predict how long you will live based on things like your BMI and your gender. And all these things, the documentary was mostly already collecting. So by also predicting your BMI, I could then predict how long you would live. And I thought that would be really funny because it's such a ridiculous prediction. But it's, at the same time, a prediction that a lot of insurers take very seriously.
Yeah, well, it's funny, but also in a eerie sense, right? We could laugh about it, but at the same time, this is reality that some insurers or other companies actually believe that the data they collect and they use, they are allowed to use the outcomes.
Yeah, that's the truth. So I think when we talk about the metaverse today, you know, that's a place where we escape and to have a fun time. But when we talk about spacefaring, you know, we only have one Earth, we have only one reality. And even if we escape to the metaverse, we should still work to make our real world fair as well and fun as well. And just being more critical about technology and not jumping into every hype and just staying, you know, as we say in Dutch, you know, Hollandse nuchterheid, you know, just being, just thinking, not being swept along with every hype and just looking critically, I think is a good thing to do. It's not that hard to do, and it'll give us better outcomes in the long run.
Good point. The hardest thing for AI to achieve is boerenverstand, common wisdom. Bart says he visited the website, he did the How Normal Am I, and I say, Tijmen, how do I know the AI scan was real?
Well, a lot of it's actually open source, so you could actually, the documentary does explain at the end, there's a link to how it was made, and all the sources that it was built on. So most of it's actually open source, so you could look at it. You can look at the source code to see how it all works. So it actually does all really work between brackets, you know, because it works, but the point is to show that it doesn't work reliably. Right? You just changing how you orient your face, or like the more light you have in your face, you'll look your beauty score will go up if there's more brighter lights in your room.
Okay, so more lights and high eyebrows, right?
Yeah, there's all these little tricks that you can experience yourself by just playing with it and then realizing that it's not perfect, that it really changes, it's not consistent.
Right.
So I think it's a nice way to just become more realistic about the technology by just experiencing it. It's really simple in that way.
I actually did the test 2 times, one time last year and now, and actually I think the length of my beard also had a impact on my BMI. But
it will also greatly impact your manliness score.
Ooh.
Yeah. So with me, I'm always 99% manly because I have a beard. If I shave it off, I become way more effeminate. It's you know, a lot of these algorithms, also like the one we talked about with you know, detecting whether or not you're gay.
Right.
That one is really just looking for stereotypes in a way. Right? It's trained on pictures of gay people, and a lot of them would have looked a certain stereotypical way. So it's detecting that. It's not really accurate to at detecting gay people. But of course, the issue is that a lot of people believe it is accurate, and that's when the troubles start.
They want to believe.
They want to believe that it's true. Yeah.
Tycho says, what are your thoughts on companies using AI and this type of data collected from their security cameras, especially if it doesn't accurately work for everyone? I know this is a topic that is close to your heart.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if your company collects data through their security cameras about you, that's already a privacy issue that you should talk about, because that's not supposed to happen. You know, you can put a camera under, for example, a cash register, but you're not supposed to continuously record all your employees working. That's not a good thing.
Right.
But there is a lot of pressure on this, and of course, in America, it's different, where there are way less rules and a lot more weird experiments.
Yeah.
And I think, there's like a whole can of worms that we can open about why that's dubious, from the results not being accurate to it leading to results like, you know, for example, you might be judged to work poorly, but how accurate is that result? It's, as we've seen, it's very biased and really rickety and held together with duct tape under the hood. So, and there's also like things like chilling effects, you know, that you mentioned a little bit, where what does it do to your company culture if you register and record everyone all the time? That's not exactly an atmosphere of trust, and it doesn't really create an atmosphere of trust either. So there's all these things, all these you could call them side effects, but that assumes that they're unpredictable.
Right.
But you can actually predict these things quite well if you look at it critically. But these side effects, you can think about them and see them, and I think the companies that are employing this right now, they'll stop doing that at some point, I think. We've seen this higher view, which was mentioned in the documentary, which is this company that tries to predict if you are a good employee based on your face movements, on what they call micro-expressions. That's what the product they were selling, but they stopped selling that because there was so much backlash from people who said, this is ridiculous. You cannot predict someone's emotion based on their facial expression. Another Dutch saying is, lach als een boer met kiespijn. Laugh like a farmer with a toothache. You fake laugh, but a fake laugh is not an indication that you are happy.
Nope.
And some people have, a resting bitch face. They look grumpy all the time, but they're not grumpy. So you cannot make this correlation between one input from this algorithm and conclude something completely different, which can have a big impact on their choices and chances. So, I think over time we will start to find out more about why this technology is not as perfect and reliable and as neutral as we think. It's just a natural part of the hype cycle, basically. We're right now still very much in an AI hype.
Yeah.
But I think in a couple of years we'll start to realize what AI really is.
Going down very fast into the track of disillusionment, right?
Yeah, I think we'll realize that AI is just try this in your own life. Whenever someone says AI, try to replace it with the word statistics. Like really advanced statistics, because that's essentially what it is.
That is what it is.
And if you do that, then you'll have a way more easy time to stay neutral and to stay grounded and not be swept up by the hype. So whenever you hear AI, just think really hardcore advanced statistics. And what do we know about statistics? You got lies, damn lies, and statistics. In a couple of years, we'll say you got lies, damn lies, and AI. That's what I think.
What a great prediction. And I know that a lot of viewers want to hear more from you, Tijmen, but time is up for this segment. So let's just invite them to watch the documentary, because this was just a small part of it. And I know that you already also wrote a book. Please give them a plug about your book.
Well, a long time ago, I wrote a book called Design My Privacy. You can actually download it for free in Dutch from my website. The English version you can buy online. And it's a book that really points out how you can design things around privacy, what are the basics. And this is being used by a lot of design schools in the Netherlands, as well as in Germany, I recently learned. So I think that's, if you want a book that I wrote, go grab it.